All right, hello. This is EVS Incorporated first sprint demo, and I'm the product owner. And this is executive summary. And in this project, we'll be building electronic voting system for the United States election at all levels, from national to local. The most important aspect of this system will be the security of the entire system, from the secure anonymity of the voter identity to the security of a vote tracker. Without security, of a system, the basic foundation of democracy is compromised. Therefore, it's the most important part of the entire system design. To focus on security, the smart card system will have to be rigorously tested to make sure the only smart card of our company created and specifically unlocked for the election will be used. Aside from the voter to cast a vote, the smart card will also be election officers' only way with directly interacting with the voting system, from setting up a voting definition of vote, which will be the election choices for the particular election, to ending and finalizing election. We also have to have a system in place to make sure a voter only vote once for the election, but does not link their identity with a specific vote. While the system requires us to fully track the vote, however, we must generate a certain level of uncertainty to the time at which a vote is cast to ensure no vote can track back to a group of voters by the time the vote is cast. Outside of the polling place, the security of voting process is still very important. We have to ensure the voting server are impervious to attack, and the transfer of voting information is secure, encrypted, and without voter personal information or any information that could lead to identifying who they are. We're assuming the voting system will work for the entire country. This puts a huge assumption on the voting laws for the entire country will allow for electronic voting system, and mail-in voter will be counted in the system before the official election.
Hi, my name is Rahul. Thank you so much, Ishan, for the exec summary. So now I've been working on the data flow diagram to understand the architecture of the system in a better way. And initially, I started off creating the level 0 data flow diagram. So as you can see, I've figured out two entities, which would be one as the voter and the other would be the election official. And on your screen now, there are five major processes which would be there in the level 0. The first one would be to process and to verify the valid ID of the voter. So the voter presents an identification, it's verified, and then once verified, the voter would be given a smart card to vote. Next, the voter will enter the smart card into the voting terminal, and the voting terminal checks if the process there is to check if the smart card has been used before or not. And this is done by, we have an external data store which stores the details of voters who have already voted. So the process cross checks that, and only then the smart card is accepted. Next, the voting terminal will provide or present, will basically check to see, based on the person's ID and the smart card, if the person requires a custom ballot form or a generic ballot form, and based on that, it is presented in front of the voter. The voter then casts his vote based on the ballot form presented to him. The vote is cast, the process processes that vote and stores the vote. After the vote is stored, the receipt is given to the voter, and also the receipt is stored in a location, and the electronic vote is also stored in what we call as a vote log file. Sorry. And after that, the election official has two major roles. One is to start the election, which he uses a special card, and the process validates that card based on a pin which he enters, and then the election is started. So that's the role of the election official here as an external entity. He also can view reports of the voting. So the reports from the data store, which is the log file, is processed in the terminal, and these reports are given to the election official. So this is what I have come up with within the first week of drawing the data flow diagram to understand the system better. And I would hand it over next to Tijo, who will explain the acceptance criteria.
Okay. So hello everyone. My name is Teju, and I'll be discussing the acceptance criteria for user stories. So we have basically divided the entire system into cases for the system for the voter. So first I'll be dealing with the user stories for the specific system. Acceptance criteria consists of three keywords: the given condition, when, and then. So corresponding to each of the user stories, I have prepared the acceptance criteria. For the first one, for the as a system, when a given voting starts, when smart card is used repeatedly, then I want to be able to reprogram so that the conditions of the case are met. Given democratic elections take place, when they are conducted, then everyone should have the right to vote. Given fairness is priority, when voter votes, then I should be able to track it. Given validity of a vote needs to be confirmed um, when the voter votes, then I want to provide a confirmation screen. Given anonymity is a priority, therefore when the voters vote, there should be a certain level of uncertainty. And given democracy should be preserved, when people vote, then data should be transferred securely to prevent any breach of data. Given tracking of voting activity is needed, when people vote, then a periodic log should be generated. Given democratic system should be preserved, when administrators enter PIN, then validate them to make sure that they are authorized. Given a democratic system needs to be preserved, when voter votes, then system should tag them. And given democracy must be preserved, when voter votes, then the system wants to validate his ID. And for the confirmation of the validity of vote, when the voter votes, then the system should print out the summary receipt. Now, as far as for the cases for the specific voters, so corresponding to those user stories, the acceptance criteria will be given a voter wants to vote. When he comes to the booth, then he should have a ballot definition that fits his political inclination. Given a voter wants to vote when he doesn't have any political inclination, then he wants a ballot definition that is generalized. Given a voter needs to vote when he has a candidate in mind, then he should have a smart card to help him do so. And in order to preserve the democracy system, when handicapped person comes to the vote, then the voter wants the system to fit his special needs. So for the third one, we have generated the user stories for the admin, and corresponding to those user stories, acceptance criteria will be given admin wants to support his voting system when the voting begins, then the admin should have administrative card to have the administrative functionality. Given democracy system needs to be preserved, when the voting begins, then admin should be able to create ballot definition for all different levels of vote. And given voting process needs to be ended when the election concludes, then admin should have a finalized card in order to help him end the election process.
Yeah, thanks Teju, and thanks Rahul for the great explanation about the data flow. Now I'll just take you through class diagram. So we have come up with 4 classes for this case. The 4 things are like 4 classes are voters, election, candidates, and smart cards. So when we take voters is related to all the 3 other classes: election, smart cards, and candidates. And election is related to other 3 classes: voters, candidates, and smart cards. And smart card is related to only voters and election. So when we take voters, we have basic attributes of voters: first name, last name, their age, address, state, and their regional political office which they belong. And there are some few operations which is corresponding to voters, like add new voter, change voter, delete voter, and assign political office, change the political office, copy votes, and archive votes. So these are all the things which is a part of voters. When we come to election, we have attributes like election political office, election date, and election type. And the operations related to election or confirm vote, commit vote, copy votes, and archive votes. And the other one is like candidates, like who are contesting in the election. So we have a class for them, and their attributes like similar to voters, like their first name, last name. And here the extra attributes other than voters would be like candidate qualification and the party they affiliate and the political office on which they contest. And the operations would be like nominate the candidate, change the candidate,
denominate the candidate, things like that. And the final one is the smart cards, which has attributes like card ID, voter, which is linked to a voter ID, and then political office and the card type. There will be different card types. One is for the voters to cast their vote. Another is the card which the admin has to use to close the election. And it has operators like read card and cancel card. So this is all about the overall overview of the class diagram, and I'll just hand over to Drew for explanation about sequence diagram.